Hey guys, it's Mario from WKTL, and I'm gonna give a brief overview of the rules for the World Knife Throwing League. First thing you'll notice is the knives. The knives have guards, and the reason they have guards is because of insurance. This is the most fundamental aspect of everything that we do, both on the World Axe Throwing League and in the World Knife Throwing Leagues, is safety across the board. And while not everyone might have the same safety cages as what you see here, other ones might come in diagonally, but we have a specific guideline set for the guards. These guards are an absolute must, and it is 100% not possible to have WKTL without having these venues be insured. Now, the biggest insurer of these venues, we absolutely need to be able to meet the requirements to keep people safe. So if you're spectating on the side, the last thing you want is a knife flying through, which has actually happened and has happened before we upgraded some of the venues, like what you see here with the wooden parts, where they will slide under and they can actually clip you by the legs or the feet, or if they go high enough, it might even clip you in the face. And that's obviously something we want to avoid. So no matter what, we will outline the specifications, we will outline the specific size of the knives. Generally speaking, I believe it's 13 to 16 inches in length, so they do have to be much bigger knives. They're not going to be smaller ones. That also stops any sort of ricochets from happening when you throw the knives. The guards, again, it's for safety of spectators and yourself. It stops the knives from flying through to other cages. So if I'm practicing here with a partner and someone else is on the other side, the last thing you want is to have any sort of knife go through. So the number one rule is always safety, and that's why we have these. The second one that I want to talk about is the target, which you'll see behind me is now 3 bullseyes. We still have the same standard WATL bullseye, but now we added 2 more. We have a video on how to make these. It's no different. You can still use the WATL stencil when you create the bullseye, and the center of this is actually no different than the center of the outside of the rings. Building this is very, very easy. It's very simple, and the only change that needs to happen on WATL is the center board. You'll notice that the kill shots are still live. They're still worth 8 points. Bullseyes are still worth 6, 5, but when you go on the outside, this is the 2 ring. So this is where it starts getting tricky, and it's a lot more strategy, because when you lock up maybe the center target and you have a couple of knives, you're now risking not being able to get any more in there. So you either have to go up or down. And the strategy becomes interesting when you miss maybe low. And now you're blocking the lower target, and you're forced to maybe stick with these 2, and then you have the risk of potentially hitting 2s, 1s, or 3s versus the center board. So we'll talk about strategy afterwards, and strategy really is focused on the center first, then go on the outsides. That will make a lot most sense. Now, the other thing that you'll notice that is different is in WATL, we generally throw an axe and then retrieve it. WKTL, the World Knife Throwing League, is going to be different. You're going to have 5 knives that you're going to be throwing with. And these 5 knives will be thrown simultaneously. And what I mean by that is you throw one, your opponent throws one, then you throw the next, then they throw the next. You do not retrieve until all 5 knives have been thrown. And you throw from the 10-foot mark. So there's going to be a 10-foot marker on the floor, and that's where the first rotation or the first set of 5 throws is going to take place. Then the second set of 5 throws is going to take place at the 15-foot marker. So you will not be able to cross the 15-foot marker. Personally, I throw closer to the 16-foot mark, so I take almost a half a step or a full step back in order to get the proper 2 rotation throw in there. With the introduction of WKTL, we are also going to allow for end grain targets on the boards. We no longer care whether using pine, cottonwood, poplar, or end grain targets for any of the WKTL throwing leagues. The other thing that's important is, in order for the point to score, the tip must be in. So if somehow you're able to land it sideways, which is difficult, with the tip sticking out, that is not a valid part of the scoring area. The tip must be in. So as long as the tip is in, even if it rotates down a little bit, that is then a valid score. So that's one of the key changes that we made, that the tip always has to be in no matter what. And with the guards, it's going to be very unlikely for you to land it any other ways. Double-sided, and this is not a double-sided one, obviously, but we will not allow double-sided knives. It has to be one area is a handle, clearly a handle, and the other area is the blade. It's the blade portion of it that counts, and that's the blade portion that will stick to the board, and that will be the valid scoring area. So guys, very simple. We tried maintaining consistency with WATL and WKTL. Things are very simple, not very many changes. All the other rules still apply from WATL. So again, if you want to jump into WKTL and give it a try, it won't be very difficult at all, because the only thing we've changed is instead of throwing axes, we're throwing guarded knives that are meant to protect the safety of the throwers and the spectators. We have new rules. And specifically, we have a new centerboard target. We have the exact same targets as what we use in WATL, except we have 3 bullseyes. You must throw 5 knives, then retrieve. The throwing areas are 10 feet and 15 feet. You may not cross the line under any circumstances until all knives have come to a stop. No different than axes. You must wait for all axes to stop movement before you cross the line, and when the judge scores your throws. And finally, last but not least, we need to make sure that the tip is in. And that's all it takes for it to count. And that's the quick summary for the WKTL rules. Thanks very much, everyone. Hope you have a great day.